Okay.
Who was invited to dine with Vince McMahon Sr. after the Madison Square Garden shows?
Madison Square Garden. You know, I don't remember dinner after the Madison Square Garden shows. What Vince Sr. did was every few weeks we do television. We do one television, like I think in Philadelphia, and film a few weeks, and then we drive to Allentown, Pennsylvania, because the next day we did a few weeks in the Hamburg arena film TV. But every night after the first television taping, and everybody drove to Allentown to stay over at the Abe Lincoln Hotel, Vince Sr. would have a dinner. But it wasn't for everybody. It was, Vince Sr., Vince, the managers, Albano, Blassie, some of his agents, Skolin, Monsoon, Fanini, Bruno would be there. And because Bruno was there, I was invited to be there with Bruno. I was his protege guy. But it wasn't that many more there. It was kind of the inner circle group.
Now, this leads to quite a few people sent this in, but Jason L. has asked, could we please hear the infamous story about, I'm not even going to say the rest of it, Carlo Gambino?
Oh, Carlo Gambino. Well, another story with Bruno knew Frank Sinatra. Years ago, Frank Sinatra was a big Bruno fan. It was all in the Italian family thing. And one time, Frank was doing a live concert in New York. And it was either the day before or the day after Madison Square Garden, which was usually on a Monday. So Bruno got the word from Julie Rizzo. Julie Rizzo was like Frank's right-hand man. And he had a club in New York, a little bar club called Jilly's. And he called Bruno and said, hey, Frank's in town, would love to meet you and say hi. Love to see you and say hi. So Bruno went, oh, yeah, great. Well, we'll stop by Jill, stop by your club, and because he knew Jilly, and say hi to Frank. So Bruno, Dominic DeNucci, Tony Parisi, and me went with Bruno to Jilly's, the club, to meet Frank Sinatra that night. And it wasn't a big place, but it was crammed with people. Frank was in a back room. Bruno went in the back room to talk to him. I didn't get to go in the back room. I was a young guy. But I met Frank Sinatra for a few seconds as he was walking out later. And there was like Shelley Winters was there. Henny Youngman was there. There was some other stars there to, say hi to Frank. And as I'm standing there, and Bruno comes back, and he's sitting on a chair by the bar next to Dominic and them. And as I'm standing there, this little old guy who looked like a skeleton in a suit, and there was a couple of big guys around him, came walking up to me. And this was the era of the Polish jokes. And he looks at me, and in his hand, he's got an empty roll of toilet paper. That brown cardboard thing left. And at one end of the empty roll of toilet paper, cardboard thing, there's matchsticks taped to it. And this little old guy in his suit says to me, hey, do you know what this is? And I went, no. And he went, oh, this is a Polish flashlight. And everybody laughs. And me being the dumb Polak, I went, well, you know why Italians don't have freckles? They slide off their face. Nobody laughs. And Bruno's behind this guy sitting there, and he's going like this. Like, huh? I don't know what's going on. He goes, but I got the shut up sign, and they go, huh, and they walk away. His group walks away. So I go to Bruno. I say, what happened? What was the, shut up sign? He goes, do you know who that little old guy was? And I went, no. He went, that's Carlo Gambino, the Godfather, the one they made the movie about. I'm sure the FBI's got a picture of me leaving Jilly's that night with everybody else. But yeah, I told Carlo Gambino an Italian joke and lived.
The question asker Jason also said, by the way, anyone who knows anything about La Cosa Nostra knows how lucky Larry was to walk away from that night.
Yeah, Carlo did not laugh.
Do you know? Because I've asked. In fact, I interviewed Scott Norton not too long ago. He was a big deal in Japan, of course, and I asked him about the mafia's involvement in wrestling in Japan, and every promotion, top to bottom, pretty much they were at some level for quite a while. Was there any mafia involvement in the WWF at any level, or did the guys ever come to the shows?
No, you know what? I don't believe any of the Italian mafia group was involved at all. There might have been some people because Madison Square Garden is privately owned. It's not owned by New York City. And I remember being in some towns in Japan where I know the Japanese mafia would be the ones promoting the town and running the wrestling events, around Japan. But I never saw, I mean, there was never anything in the WWF in that area that I ever noticed, saw, thought of, heard of, with that stuff.